All right, welcome everyone to the Donovan Live Postgame Show here on WKYC's Facebook Live with Jim Donovan. I'm Dave Pinatelli. I'm back from the Motor City watching Cleveland State last night.
Way to go.
Horizon. No,
they were doing great, so we shipped you up there.
Sorry about it, Dennis Felton. It's my fault. I got to tell you, that Little Caesars Arena, beautiful. Yeah. I mean, they really, they spared no expense in that place.
Yeah, well, they really needed it. I mean, you know, they had a, first of all, they really have, despite whatever you think about Detroit, downtown Detroit, okay, and you can have whatever opinion you want, their facilities for the Tigers, Comerica Park, the Lions, Ford Field is just a beautiful place, and it's all very centrally located to each other. But the problem was, you know, the Red Wings had the Joe Louis Arena.
And before that, the other side of downtown.
Do you remember the place before that, the old Olympia?
Yes.
Yeah. But anyway, they had Joe Louis Arena, which was downtown. But then there was always that, before the Lions came downtown, there was always, you know, the Silver Dome and, you know,
and the Palace.
The Palace out in Auburn Hills. And that's a 45-minute poke outside of Detroit. So to get the Pistons, along with the Red Wings, who are the kings there during the winter months, to get them to come downtown like that, I think was great. And, you know, it's kind of like when we built then Jacobs Field and the Cavs came downtown.
Yeah, you know, I mean, that was, you know, for those who lived in the suburbs, we were a little sad, but it is great to have the Cavs downtown. And much like Gateway, Detroit has kind of put all those, Jimmy mentioned, all those facilities really within walking distance of each other. It's really called the District. And then you have the Fox Theater, which is kind of like their Playhouse Square. They've got their main theater for a lot of their performances and things like that is right over there. Right. And Greektown Casino is right over, is within walking distance. So, you know, again, whatever you think of the Detroit area, they were very smart in
or
how
as they like to call it in Detroit, Gilbertville.
Gilbert, yeah, right. I mean, because Dan Gilbert's fingerprints were on that arena. I mean, and it's all over,
Well, that's great. So it's a nice arena.
So it's a nice arena. Took good care of us. And, you know, the one thing I got out of Cleveland State as you know, we kind of wrapped up last night is that, you know, if Dennis Felton makes this team into a championship team in the Horizon League, into a team that plays, you know, in these types of games year in and year out, this last month is going to be the launching pad from when they were able to beat that same Wright State team that they lost to last night, but they had beaten them earlier in the month, and beat Northern Kentucky and beat Oakland, and, you know, get these youngsters a lot of tournament experience. That's when I think this program, if there's a turnaround, that's when it's going to start. And that's the fun part of the year. And now it's a lot of the college basketball attention comes to Cleveland over the next couple of days here for the MAC tournament.
I love the MAC tournament.
I do too.
Really do. I love the MAC tournament. And I would throw right back at you the fact that I was a big Keith Dambrot fan. What he did, you know, at Akron St. Vincent St. Mary. I don't know that he had to do too much with that team. Right. But anyway, he was there, and then he went. He became Dan Hipsher's assistant, at Akron, and then he moved up a chair, and he became the head coach at Akron. And he did marvelous things with the Zips, and I thought that was a tough loss for Akron to lose him last year to Duquesne, but I got it, the economics of it, and his frustration with the reality that the MAC gets one team in, and only the winner of that tournament. Now, for Keith, he couldn't win that championship game a number of times to get them. I mean, he had NCAA worthy, wouldn't you say? Worthy teams.
Yeah, no question.
They were like 28-6 last year. But, you know, the committee would not give them a second team, so you had to win the tournament. They got beaten in some real heartbreaking, and he went on his way. But I'll tell you this, John Gross has hung in there with the Zips this year because the cupboard was bare. And he didn't really have a full recruiting year, not at all, by the time he left Illinois. He was fired at Illinois and then took the job at Akron after Dambrot left because that was after the NCAA tournament. Right? And, you know, he took the hand that was dealt him, and their win on Monday night up at Western Michigan was unbelievable. They were down 27-4, 18-0 at one point. They go, call a timeout. We're going to take a full, not a 20. You know, I think he's done a good job just to get them to Cleveland. Now, as you're saying, you know, hopefully Coach Felton with the Vikings can capitalize on this, get them, you know, some more talent. And then John Gross the same way. Now, he knows his way around the MAC because he did a great job at Ohio U before he went to Illinois. And hopefully Akron can get back because I like to see Akron and Kent.
I do too.
The MAC
well.
Is always, and I think Rob Senderoff does a great job.
The MAC is always great when Akron and Kent are amongst the top teams. Kent, by the way, will play there are 4 games in the quarterfinals tomorrow. Kent State will play game 2, the late afternoon game. They've got Central Michigan. Yeah, there you go. Have a sip. That'll help. And then Akron will play the late game tomorrow night against Eastern Michigan. So we'll see how it goes. And then, last year Kent State was the 6th seed and ended up making a run all the way. So, we'll see if we see lightning strike twice. But I always enjoy the MAC tournament. Go out there to the Q and watch some great college basketball over the next 3 days.
Well, I have to tell you, today and yesterday, I watched basketball all afternoon long at home before I came into Channel 3. And when I got here, I even watched some more. But I tip of the hat to Jim Christian at Boston College, the former Kent State coach, and at Ohio University. He took over the job after the carpetbagger Stan Heath left. Did a great job at Kent State.
Yes, he did.
He's at Boston College now, and he's had a major rebuild. They won again today. They beat North Carolina State. They won yesterday, too. And so they're, he's really – I didn't know if he was going to get the chance to really do his thing at Boston College because his first year they didn't win a game.
I know. It was
last year they only won 2 in the ACC, but this year they got better, and he's got some players, and he's a good coach.
That's what's fun about the conference tournaments is, no matter how poorly you may have played in the regular season, it's almost like a second season. You get another chance, and maybe you make a few upsets. You get yourself into the tournament, and we'll see. I'm with you. I do love this. That's why I couldn't stand that the Big Ten tournament was last week, and it was in New York, and all that. All right, a couple other things I wanted to bring up with you since I was gone yesterday. First things first, this I'm sure you're an advocate of this. I'm much more concerned about what happens with the Cleveland Browns on the field as opposed to what they wear. But I'm not surprised that the reports are starting that the Browns are considering uniform changes, which would take place, I guess, starting in 2020. I guess I'm not shocked that those thoughts are out there because
I can tell you they are going to change their uniform by 2020.
Yeah.
Now you have to petition to the NFL to do that. There's a period of time because remember now they have just done it a few years ago, so it takes a matter of time. Then whatever you're going to change them to has to be run through the NFL.
Right.
Like what are we going to do? I'm all for it.
Yes.
Okay. But, and I told this on the 7 o'clock news, and I know you were, with the consumer protection people and doing the Queen of Hearts game out there, but there was a point in time, and I think this epitomizes change of uniforms, change of luck. Okay. There was a moment, and you're a historian in Cleveland sports. But there was a time when the Cavaliers changed their uniforms to that periwinkle blue and black with some orange, which I didn't like.
Terrible.
And they had a big unveiling.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And they had the voice of the Cavs, the great Joe Tate, as the MC. Now, Joe, tremendous on the radio, nobody better when he was in his heyday, and that was a long day, heyday. He was great. But he wasn't much for those kind of events.
No,
I mean, you know. So I can remember when they unveiled, he did it, and he was the MC, and now, here are the new Cavalier uniforms. And then someone from the Cavs said, Joe, what do you think of the new uniforms? And Joe summed it up perfectly. He said, I tend to think all uniforms look great when great players are wearing them.
That is so Joe Tate.
That's it.
That is so Joe. But it's true. It's true. I mean, uniforms can be ugly, but if the team's winning championships, who cares?
How about this? When the Browns announced that they were moving to Baltimore, Art Modell slithered into town one day to meet with the Browns, because remember, the season was still going on, and he got into Berea, and he held a team meeting to go over, now listen, you're all going to be okay. We're going to take care of your families. You're going to be able to move to Baltimore. You're going to love it in the Baltimore area. They're excited about having you there. Are there any questions? And Andre Rison raised his hands and said, what was most prominent on Andre Rison's minds, are we going to be able to wear better uniforms? I mean, of all the things that are going on, would you worry about the uniforms? But, somebody told me that in these Cavalier practices, before, with the reporters who cover the Cavs and really are embedded with them day in and day out, the beat writers, Jason Lloyd, Dave McMenamin, Joe Vard, and all those people. when they're around, LeBron can sometimes, before he goes on mic, talk things over. Yeah. LeBron's a pretty big football fan.
Yeah, huge.
And he always hammers on the Browns uniforms.
Totally.
And LeBron feels that you have to wear a great uniform. If you have a great uniform on, he thinks that it just elevates your game that much more. Remember how the Cavaliers wanted to wear the all black.
Right.
Remember in the NBA Finals, because they felt great in the all black.
Right.
They wanted it in the all black.
Exactly.
Yeah. So they are going to change their uniforms.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
don't know what they're going to change.
I know they're going to change them too.
I'd go back to the old ones.
Yeah. I had no problem. I never had a problem with the old ones. I thought the old ones were great.
I'm going to build on. I'm full of stories tonight. But I just want to tell you this: that the equipment guys who you get to know out in Berea tell me that there are purists when it comes to Browns fans. Mm-hmm. Okay, that I was at the '64 championship game. I was there the day that Otto Graham did this, and they are fanatical about the Browns uniform. And even when the Browns did not go to this radical look that they went to, the change in uniform that they went to a couple of years ago, even when they were still wearing the basic, the whites on white and the brown jersey at home, and people would write in if they noticed that the striping on the pant leg had been moved a fraction.
Yep.
What are you doing?
Right.
Right. So the uniforms mean a lot.
Well, uniforms mean a lot. If there are times when it was always, for home games, the Browns would wear brown. And that was always it. Then road games was white. Then it was, when the Browns got good in the 80s, in the late 80s, they almost always wore the white jerseys, home and away. People started noticing trends like that. People are dead serious about uniforms. They just are. So we'll keep an eye on that. Also, while I was up in Detroit last night, Joe Thomas spoke over in Westlake, and you and I both have said, look, he's going to make this when the announcement comes. Jokingly we'll say, well, it'll be on his podcast, but there's going to be a press conference, but it's going to come in the next 8 days between now and the start of free agency. It's coming.
Oh, yeah, it has to. Yeah, it has to. He has to let them know what his plans are. But according to him last night, he's still not there. And then he told a story, and we can probably all relate to this. It's like picking out of college. There's a day where you say, and I'm quoting him, there's a morning you wake up and you say, hey, I want to go to Notre Dame. Mm-hmm. Now, for me, that would be it.
Right. Done. End of story.
But anyway, he says, then the next day you wake up and say, no, I think I'm going to go to Wisconsin.
Right.
And then the next day it might be something different. You might go back to Notre Dame or Wisconsin. So I think that's where he is. I will tell you this, that the broadcast audition is very real.
Yeah.
He did that. He called a game on tape for Fox, and it was a Seattle Seahawks game.
You know what that's like.
Yeah, that's how they did the auditions for the Browns radio job.
Yeah.
And I think that they thought he held his own, and maybe even more than held his own. Now, I don't know about the ESPN part of that, and of course there was a story that came out today. I'm sure you're aware of it, that Peyton Manning could get up over $10 million for a season.
Yes.
For going on Monday Night Football, which would be like $3.5 million more than John Gruden got.
Right.
And we thought Gruden broke the bank.
Right. No kidding.
That
was always the big thing. John Gruden will never leave the booth because he'd make more than coaching. Well,
and you're undefeated in the booth.
Yeah, exactly.
You're undefeated in the booth.
Yeah, you can't lose.
So I think that I don't think he's there yet. I don't think he's holding back on anything.
I don't either.
I think what he worries about the most is if he does come back, can he play at the level that we've become accustomed to seeing him play? That's a very high level. Yeah. Even in the last couple of years, there hasn't been much slip.
Right.
Okay? So is he going to be able to get back to that level? If he can't get back to that level, I don't think he wants anyone to see him in a diminishing, what was the thing Belichick said?
Diminishing skills.
about
Bernie Kosar, diminishing skills. Yeah, Joe is a very prideful guy, and when you're a 10-time Pro Bowler and a 10-time All-Pro and Hall of Fame bound, athletes want people to always remember the last time they see them play. And I think that's one of the reasons why I do think this is a decision for Joe, because the last image in a Browns uniform is him, walking off the field with the injury. Yeah. Well, he wants to come back and play, but he also doesn't want to come back and be, you know, 50% of himself, and watching defensive ends go around him and sacking whoever the quarterback's going to be this fall.
Yeah. You know, there was a you're right about that, and they do want you to see them in their glory.
Right.
Okay, there was a sad scene, and I think it was at the end of Willie Mays' career, where Willie was playing with the Mets. And he went back on a ball, and of course everyone remembers the famous one when he went back on the Polo Grounds against the Indians in the World Series and made what a lot of people feel still is the greatest catch ever. Okay, but he went back on a ball and he got clumsy, and he got hung up, and he looked, you know, and that was kind of sad to see the great Willie Mays do that.
And that's always, and I always think that was why Michael Jordan retired. Somewhat, not the first time, but not the first time, but after the second three-peat, because I think I mean, besides the controversies with Jerry Krause, I mean, I think he felt like, okay, I'm good. I don't want to see people decline. And watching him in a Washington Wizards jersey where, you know, he was 70% of himself, you're just like, I don't want to remember Michael Jordan like that. I want to remember him, you know, doing the things that he did. So we'll keep an eye. I mean, this could happen any day. So last thing here, Jimmy. What were your thoughts? I haven't talked to you since Monday. When you read Kevin Love's essay in the Players Tribune, I thought it was incredibly courageous, and it was. I read it, and I was like, wow.
It's frightening.
Yeah.
I would imagine. I can't imagine going through that.
Yeah.
And especially where he went through it.
Yeah, I mean, the time and the place.
There was a reporter on ABC, maybe a year ago, maybe a little bit longer than that, who actually had a panic attack while on the air.
Doing a newscast. David, I have his book. I can't remember. It's like David Muir or something like that. And
I don't think it was him, but I mean, it was a guy that was doing. He was actually doing a report on the. I think he was on Good Morning America at the time doing a report, and he suffered a panic attack on the air, and it was very, very uncomfortable to watch. Here's the thing I wondered, Dino, about Kevin Love, is that. You know, and I don't know the dynamics or the medical part of this whole thing, but to play on this team has been a lot of pressure.
Yes.
Okay, and he has been the center of the storm a lot of times. He's been an easy guy to lay the blame on.
Kick around.
There was that, loud, bombastic team meeting where he seemed to be singled out by Isaiah Thomas, if not others, but certainly Isaiah Thomas, because he left the arena when he wasn't well, and now we don't know, what was the reason. You can suspect, that after he wrote this essay in the Players Tribune, maybe it could have been another one of those attacks or something like that triggered, or he felt that it was going to trigger an attack. Boy, there's a, I just hope that he's free of mind and healthy and getting the help he needs. Much more important than if he blocks out or how many rebounds he gets, or how
quickly he comes back from a broken hand or whatever.
I mean, since he's come here, he has really always been. I mean, we were so excited to get him, and it was such an integral part of LeBron coming back and being able to put the roster he thought he needed to win a championship with together. And Love, you had to make that deal for Love with Minnesota to make it all work, and they did. But from the time he got here, I don't know if he's been underappreciated, but he's been an easy target for criticism.
I spent the first year and a half he was here still doing sports talk over at ESPN Cleveland. And Jimmy, especially in Cavs season, I would get at least one call a day, if not more, from people saying, I would rather have Andrew Wiggins than Kevin Love. And it was, I mean, to the point where we had to, Bruce Hooley and I banned people from calling if that's what they wanted to talk about, because we get tired of hearing it. He's an easy target because he's introverted, very reflective, doesn't fight back on social media. He's just. Kevin is Kevin. He has his own, he marches to the beat of his own drum. Yeah. And it's a polar opposite from LeBron James, who is, everything about LeBron is bombastic and fired up. And I just wonder, these 4 years have been challenging.
Well, I hope they've been. Do you think they've been happy?
I think I think the first year was not happy. I've always believed that going out to California after the finals were over, and as he was healing from the injured shoulder, and he and LeBron sat down at the poolside meeting that ended up doing pictures, and I think LeBron said, "No, we want you back." You know, and he signed long term, so he had security, the financial security. And then they won the championship. And then this whole thing with the big three and all the expectations, you win the championship. And, you know, everybody I've ever talked to around Kevin has said that was a big weight off of his shoulder. And I, you know, remember seeing his face at the parade and how much it meant to him and how much it meant to him to have a big part at the White House with President Obama at the jersey ceremony. That was big for him to be the guy to present the president with the jersey. And but I think fans have always assumed that, well, Kevin Love can't be happy here because you're playing second fiddle to LeBron for a while, third fiddle to LeBron and Kyrie, and people. It's like he had a "Go Kick Me" sign on the back of him sometimes. But I love what he did, and it seems like number one, he's getting help, but number two, I think the sense of self and the figuring out what makes him happy, but also understanding that, I had a problem, and it wasn't anything I could just be a man and get over. Yeah.
Well, I just hope he's happy, and I hope he's well, and I'm sure he'll get a warm welcome back when he comes back on. Yeah. I mean, I remember the time when he had the injury in the Celtics series when his shoulder was injured, and I remember him being startled by the reception he got when he returned in civilian clothes and just sat on the bench. And he came out of the tunnel and he got like a standing ovation. I think he was almost crying. It was it was so overwhelming. So I mean, sometimes it's not easy.
No,
it's not all the glamour that we put it up to be. These guys, they live in a fishbowl. Yeah. And especially on that team, and with those players, I mean that's a tight fishbowl.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, folks, it's easy for people at home to say, well, you're making $90 million, just be happy. It doesn't work like that. I wish it worked like that, but unfortunately, anxiety,
the 90 million thing, or are they happy?
Yeah, I wish I knew about the 90. I wish it worked like that. I wish I could be get $90 million, but happiness doesn't always come with money. Sometimes it's very, very deep and complicated. Jimmy, we'll do this again tomorrow, and we'll keep an eye again on what's happening with the Joe Thomas situation as he makes his decision. We're 8 days from free agency.
Tino, I'm going to leave people with a little bit of concern, okay? And I don't want to ruin your night, but I do want to throw this out there, and we can elaborate on this tomorrow. So Michael Bennett is being traded from the Seahawks to the Philadelphia Eagles for a wide receiver and a 5th-round draft choice. And the Browns were involved in the deal, one of the teams, and didn't get the deal done. Yep. Robert Quinn is being traded at some point, or if not always, if it hasn't happened already. And the Browns were said to be in on the trade, and it didn't happen. Alex Smith is being traded from Kansas City to Washington once the business year is in effect, which is coming up next week. We were definitely in on the trade, and it didn't happen. Vontae Davis came and visited, and we were obviously in on it, and it didn't happen. And I just worry that the 1-31 is really troubling to players coming here. Now, the other than the Vontae Davis things, remember, those other situations are trades.
Yep.
What's going to happen in free agency when it's the player's choice?
It's
think about it. Give me 500 words on it tomorrow. We'll read them out loud.
All right, for Jim Donovan, the schoolmaster Jim Donovan, I'm Dave T. Natale. Thanks for watching the Donovan Live Postgame Show here on WKYC's Facebook Live.